Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another episode of my Sims 4 Wishlist. So this one is one that I've been meaning to do for months now, and that is a band's game pack, of course, with many more musical instruments that would come with it, because I feel like The Sims 4 could use a lot more of those. The ones I came up with are drums, saxophone, singing with City Living Incorporation because, yeah, we already got that skill in that pack, but I think it would be really important to have singing in a band's dedicated pack since we didn't really have that in The Sims 3 Late Night, but that was split amongst a lot of other features. We already do have the singing skill in City Living, but you would not need City Living to have vocal bands. You would just have different songs compared to what you have in the City Living expansion though. We'd also finally get electric guitars back because we only have acoustic ones right now, but electric guitars would be patched in for free. Another instrument that we would get in the pack is an upright bass, just like the one we had in The Sims 3. And also a tambourine. I think it'd be especially cute to see toddlers using those. I wouldn't really have toddlers be part of the band's gameplay, but I think it'd be a pretty cute extra just so that there is at least something for them to do with this pack. One last addition, bagpipes, because I want a Scottish world to go with this kind of game pack. I'll get more into the details on the world later though. Of course, I would also have any instruments that are currently in the game to be compatible with bands like acoustic guitars, the keyboards from City Living, and even the pipe organ from Vampires. I would love to have a band with a pipe organ involved. But I would want bands to be able to accommodate for children and older, because I did try to have a teenager here be part of the band, but no, I had to age her up to a young adult, so yeah, very strange that I couldn't at least have a teen be part of a band in The Sims 3. You can kind of pretend still by doing a jam session like I'm doing right here, but then in later footage I realized, oh yeah, I have to age her up so that I can record actual band gameplay for this video. As for how many Sims are allowed to be in a band at one time, I think 8 should be fine. I'm pretty sure with the clubs from Get Together it's like that once you have the 2 upgrade perks. I think most of the time though, personally I would be playing with bands of about 3 to 5 Sims. One other idea I've also considered is being able to have your Sim be a solo singer, so then if you do need instruments, then you can just hire just random backups from a pool of NPCs. Next we come to the genres that you can have your band play. I tried to not include too many here because the more I include, the more songs you'd have to put in each one, and I'm really trying very hard to not make this the scope of an expansion pack, but I came up with rock, folk, because then bagpipes could go really well with that category, then jazz, R&B, and I really would like to try and fit synthwave in here, but without the keyboards from City Living, I think it'd be pretty difficult to do, and I don't want to make yet another instrument when I'm already cramming quite a few in here. I also really would have loved to fit in country music, but maybe that could also mix in with folk a little bit. Once you've decided it is time to form a band, I think you should be able to click on another sim to ask to form a band, just like in The Sims 3. I was thinking about, oh, what if I just clicked on somewhere in the UI to do it, but I felt like that just would not be as realistic and wouldn't really capture the storytelling moment of forming a band very well at all. So yeah, you can go up to other Sims who you have at least a pretty decent relationship with and ask them to be a part of your band, and if they accept, then you can go ahead and name your band after inviting your first member in. And there would be a random name generator in case you can't come up with a good name yourself. And you could also decide the uniform for your band, because maybe with certain bands you just want to have like a casual everyday wear sort of thing, but I think there should also be the option to set a different category, like say if your band wants to be performing in swimwear all the time or formal wear all the time, like especially if you wanted that band to be a jazz band, that would make a lot of sense. But you could also just make the uniform whatever sort of clothing you want, rather than it just being the current outfit of a category of what your Sims are wearing. For example, say if you have outdoor retreat, then you can make all your Sims in your band wear the bear outfit from that game pack. Then you gotta think about how are you gonna get gigs in this. So in The Sims 3, you just have to wait around and hope that you get an opportunity through the phone, but in my experience, it was so rare that I did not really get to play with bands as nearly as much as I would have loved to. However, I did find a mod by SimLogical that adds a bulletin board that you can add to community lots, and then you can just look for gigs from there. So I think that would also be a good idea to put in The Sims 4, and I will link that mod in the video description below. Yeah, there you go, you can see the board right there. But I think also you should be able to just look for gigs on your own, kind of like with the acting career, where you would have an agent, and then depending on the agent, they could help you more or less going along with what sort of genre that your band is focusing on in comparison to theirs. I think it still should be possible to get gig opportunities at random and be allowed to accept or decline them. I just don't want to have to rely on that like I did in The Sims 3 before I knew about that SimLogical mod. However, the drawback of making bands a full career like the acting one is that you won't be able to do any part-time jobs alongside it, because especially when you're just an up-and-coming band, you might be doing other stuff on the side. I mean, yeah, there's the odd job system, but you need island living for that, and I feel like you shouldn't just rely on the odd jobs for that kind of storytelling. So I don't know if there'd be a way to make bands its entirely own career system that doesn't interfere with whether you can get a full-time job or a part-time job. So when it's time to do a gig, then you can bring your own instruments, but depending on how the performance venue is furnished, the instruments might already be there, so you can also use the ones over there if you want to. But thankfully, the platform tool has already been a thing in The Sims 4 since just before Snowy Escape came out, so I don't need to go to the trouble of including a split level tool as a brand new feature for this. But one thing I think they should add onto this is an ability to designate a platform as a performance space, because one problem I can already imagine happening with a bands pack is your band is performing their gig, but then random Sims just keep going right up to your band members and just doing whatever in front of them instead of just watching in front of the stage or sitting in a chair or like a bench or a couch near it. So yeah, I think it would be a really great idea to have some sort of way to designate a platform as a performance space so that the game knows that only the band members should be on there when there is a gig that is going on. If there's no gig going on, then fine, everyone can go on then, but yeah, just don't want to have chaos while there is a performance. Or if there is chaos, it would just be like Sims throwing junk at the stage from off the stage, not while they're also on it. Speaking of throwing junk at the stage, you definitely can have your bands take gigs that they're way underqualified for, and it can result in that sort of thing happening. And if you have the Get Famous expansion pack, then if they do really badly, then they can lose fame, and they can also lose job performance. So if you want to have a really awful band, then you can do that too. It doesn't have to be all about the glitz and the glamour. You can also have your band members do things during the performances too. Like, you could have your singer go and sort of converse with the audience, or you can have any of your band members kind of like pull a sweet move in the middle of the gig. I'm pretty sure you're able to do that in The Sims 3 as well. And I think you could also do a bit of that in Showtime if you had that pack. So I think that would be pretty cool to have a sort of interactive sort of experience with your audience too, not just simply playing the music. The gigs, I think, should probably last about 4 to 5 sim hours, and then after that, you would collect your payout from the host. But it wouldn't actually always be at a venue. You could even perform at birthday parties and just parties in general. I think that would also make things more interesting that way. I do want there to be some kind of indicator that your band is doing really well, though, in comparison to other bands around the world. And I don't want that to just be conveyed by the fame system if you just so happen to have Get Famous. So I'd like there to be like a top 15 or top 20 list of bands that you could see in the tabloids. There's no newspaper in The Sims 4, so I guess you would just check it on your computer or on a tablet. And if your band has done a lot of successful gigs lately, then maybe they'll actually make that list, and then your Sims could get a really positive buff. However, I do want to take the band's gameplay a bit further. I don't want there to just be live performances. I want them to be able to record their own albums too in a recording studio. I think that would add a lot more depth to the bands compared to what we had in The Sims 3. And maybe you could even have your Sims potentially buy the music online, like even if you're not playing as a Sim within that band. One of the pre-made lots in the new world would have a recording studio all just set up if you don't have the space or money at home, but yeah, you could still record stuff at home if you would like to. I'd also love to be able to do photo shoots for album covers, so it wouldn't just be some sort of generic thing once your album is published. And I think it would also be really fun if photo shoots could also be done for band posters that your Sims could hang up in their rooms. No longer would you be stuck with just generic band posters that you would get from build mode. The poster could be an actual band that you have in your game. Okay, so that basically covers all the gameplay components that I would like to see for bands. So you wouldn't have just the live performances that we had in The Sims 3, but you could also go into the recording studio with your band and release their own albums as another way to make money and also to get more famous and make their way up the charts. Now I would like to talk about some of the other content that I would like to see in a band's game pack. I mentioned near the beginning that I would like a Scottish-inspired world. I'm getting tired of US-based ones, so the next thing that I thought of in terms of music was the UK, and one of my favorite bands right now, Churches, happens to be from Scotland. So I was thinking maybe we could get a world that is partially based off of Edinburgh and also the Scottish Highlands. The Scottish Highlands were actually in one of the official surveys from last year, so that could be a way of fulfilling just one of those requests there. And with the bagpipes, yeah, that could go well as a brand new instrument for the Sims franchise, and also incorporate more culture at the same time. To try and keep things within the scope of a game pack, I'm just going to suggest 2 districts for this world. One would be a downtown location, which would take inspiration from places such as Glasgow and Edinburgh. I actually have been playing quite a bit of Forza Horizon in recent months, which does feature Edinburgh as part of the map. And then the other section would be more towards like the outskirts of town in the countryside, and then you can see the Scottish Highlands in the background. I think there's a lot of potential here. This could be such a gorgeous world, and I do want to push for 2 districts because then at least there could be a little bit more variety in terms of the pre-made performance venues. I don't want it to just be sort of like bars downtown the whole time. I would like there to be a bit of rural mixed in there too. Maybe they could even approach it in a similar style to Mount Komorebi and Snowy Escape, where instead of it being just one city with different districts, it's a collection of different towns. As for the build mode, this definitely has to match with a Scottish-inspired world. So maybe there could be something Victorian but a bit less gothic than what Vampires did, maybe something Edwardian or Art Deco, things like that. And spiral stairs would be nice, though not mandatory. It could go with other packs as well. But if I were to suggest a brand new build feature, since we already have the platform tool for making stages and doing split leveling, for Create a Sim, this would have to be a mixed bag, because I want some clothes that would go with the different genres of music being represented. So you need a bit of like that rock and punk rock and kilts, since we're gonna have a Scottish world. I'm sorry, we need to have kilts, and we're gonna have bagpipes to go with them, so even more reason to do that. We should also have some more classical clothing to go with jazz bands, and if we did manage to fit in country and synthwave, then definitely have some more country clothing and 80s inspired stuff. As for aspirations, I can only think of one pretty obvious one, and that would be to have a world famous band. And for traits, I'm not really too sure about this, because we already have Music Lover in the base game. So I was thinking maybe some ones that have a bit more attitude to it, like Rebellious and Brooding from The Sims 3. I would also like to talk a bit about what I'd like to see in a free update alongside this pack. So there would be the electric guitars that I already mentioned, as well as Spiral Stairs as a bonus, but I would really like the ability to stream music from our Sims computers. Now that I think about it, it is a little strange that we can't already do that, but I was just thinking it would be another way to have our Sims access our Sims band's music. And maybe it could even be a streaming service like Simify or something like that, where you would have to pay every couple of weeks or so, just a small fee, to be able to keep doing that, and it could add more realism there. And maybe even favorites could come back, not just for favorite music, though that was the main reason I was thinking of this. But yeah, maybe it could even have the ability to designate a favorite color, a favorite foods, and maybe some of the other favorites that already exist in the game if you have certain packs, such as weather and the favorite movies with movie hangout stuff. Alright, so that wraps up another episode of my Sims 4 wishlist. So definitely a lot of ideas here, but I feel even more enthused about the idea of getting bands back in The Sims 4 eventually, because there is quite a lot of room for improvement. I realized that even more than when I initially came up with the idea to do this episode. But feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What would you like to see with bands in The Sims 4? And hopefully we get a bands game pack this year, but we shall see. So feel free to check out the other episodes in this series. I've done quite a few over the years. Some of them have come true, some of them haven't yet, but yeah, it is fun doing these videos once in a while. But with that, be sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with my latest gaming content, including life simulations and more. So I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!